A flicker of recognition sparked in Mark Davidson's eyes as he stepped into the sleek glass-paneled office, his presence commanding and deliberate. He moved like a man accustomed to control, every gesture smooth, precise. "So you're the one behind our Singapore acquisition," he said, his voice warm with approval. "Last quarter success is yours." Silence thickened like fog behind him. Richard Cole, my superior, and more bitterly, my father-in-law, stood rigid. The color drained from his face, his eyes darting as if trying to grasp at something that would steady the floor beneath him. But there was nothing left for him to grip. I allowed myself a small, pointed smile. Not wide, just enough to cut. I had first met Richard in a setting of wealth and old power, his grand estate. The dining room swayed in candlelight in the scent of aged wine. Silver gleamed against bone-white linen. He shook my hand with forced warmth and called me son before dessert. I caught the word junior slip from his mouth when he thought I wasn't listening. I'd shrugged it off as harmless ego. The flex of a man used dominance. He'd spoken often of merit, of men who carved their own way through the world. I believed him. So when he offered me a position at Cole and Hartman shortly after the wedding, I accepted, thinking he wanted family close. I didn't see then what he truly wanted, someone to mold, control, and crush beneath his thumb. The cracks revealed themselves gradually. Boardroom ideas brushed aside. Clients I brought in were quietly transferred to his roster. At home, he whispered poison into my wife's ear with the ease of a practiced manipulator. "He's trying, sweetheart. Business is complicated. He'll learn." She believed him. She let his narrative fill the silence between us. Let his doubts become her own. The same man who walked her down the aisle spent a year tearing me down piece by piece. A missed bonus here. A name removed from correspondence there. And always that smug, glinting smirk whenever I tried to protest. The final blow came at an awards banquet. The deal I had worked tirelessly to close, the one that revived the flailing sector of the firm, was toasted as a team effort. He held his glass high, basked in applause, then turned and caught my wife's eye. She smiled, but when the room erupted with claps and cheers, hers was softer than the rest. That was the moment I stopped hoping for fairness. I began quietly, behind the curtain where few ever look. I buried myself in spreadsheets, transactional histories, overlooked audit trails. And soon, the rot rose to the surface. Shell companies tied to his name. Payments routed through phantom vendors. Discrepancies too precise to be accidental. It was a web of arrogance and greed, sloppily woven. I documented everything, carefully, methodically, but paper alone wouldn't break him. I needed influence. I needed someone untouchable. Enter Mark Davidson, CEO of Eastbridge Holdings, one of our biggest accounts, and a man Richard had been courting for years. I didn't approach through contracts. I approached as a man of values. Golf games, charity galas, honest conversation over quiet dinners. Davidson hated deception, respected loyalty. I gave him both. By the time Richard called me into his office for a performance review, I had already placed my final piece. He sat behind a glossy desk, his voice thick with disdain. "These qualifications seem a little embellished. It's unfortunate my daughter married you. I question your ability to manage important accounts." He leaned back, expecting me to stammer. Then the door opened. Davidson entered, his smile disarming. "Didn't expect to see you here," he said casually. He crossed the room and clapped my shoulder. "I was just telling my board how this man saved our Singapore expansion. He's why I'm bringing all our accounts to Cole and Hartman, so long as he's leading." Richard paled. For once, he was speechless. I said nothing. The moment didn't need words. By the following week, Davidson's praise had made headlines, casting me as the architect of Eastbridge's resurgence. Within days, 3 major clients followed suit. By Monday, the board had convened an emergency session. I walked into the boardroom without fanfare. No dramatics, just quiet certainty. I laid down my files. Transaction logs, offshore wire transfers, falsified audits. Every piece of evidence meticulously organized. Every page a nail in his professional coffin. Richard sputtered, denied, deflected, shouted. When that failed, he pulled the last card he had left. Family. It's a misunderstanding, he said hoarsely. This is my son-in-law. We've had disagreements, sure, but... I watched him twist. The SEC didn't. They moved fast. Davidson's name carried weight in powerful places. 2 weeks later, Richard Cole left the building in handcuffs. The headlines were ruthless. Corporate titan undone by son-in-law's whistleblow. Family dynasty shatters beneath scandal. My wife called me once. I let it ring. She had made her choice long before, when she clapped softly for him instead of me. Now I sit behind the same desk where he once sneered, the leather still faintly warm from his tenure. But this seat fits me better. Davidson strolled in a few minutes ago, grinning. One brilliant move, kid. I offered the same quiet smile I'd given Richard the day we first met. I don't play games I'm not ready to win. They say revenge is best served cold. I disagree. It's best served with precision, calculated, undeniable, and in full view of every witness. Richard thought I was a pawn, an ornamental hire, a husband who'd bend to keep the peace. What he didn't realize was that I'd already survived worse. I wasn't forged in his office. I was tempered long before I entered it. I didn't need his approval. I only needed his arrogance. And he handed it to me willingly, like a gift. Now the skyline burns gold against the glass, the city hushed and sprawling. This was never about retribution. It was about standing tall in a room built to break you and refusing to bend. Richard tried to bury me in shadows. Instead, I stood in the light and let him fall into his own.